You're live. Let me share this.
Let me retweet you.
There we go. All right. Give it a couple seconds here. See if Big Slick joins us first and
Yeah,
foremost.
Once Slick is here, we can start.
But as we this feed is out there on Twitter and people start to file in, Russ, I don't think I would call that a relaxing week in the Bahamas.
No, this week sucked. After it had some really great moments. The second overtime was awesome against Auburn.
Yeah.
But oh man, this was a rough week. They got beat up. I mean, they need a day off badly.
Oh, yes. And who do they get on Tuesday as a return gift? Is it Grambling or is it Yumi's?
It's UMass.
Okay. All right. So there's something there at least to hopefully help them recover a little bit when they get back. But I mean, let's talk first today's game against VCU, because I think this one just when I saw the line open at 8 today, I was like, that just seems a little too much. Like in normal circumstances, could UConn beat VCU by 8 or more? Yeah, and they almost did
Right.
by the end of that overtime. But I just had a feeling this was going to be a dogfight of a game against a VCU team that's been really weird this year. They've got weird losses, but some good wins too. So I wasn't sure what to really expect, but 3 games in 3 days is always tough. And the way VCU plays, I just knew this was going to be a tough one. Your thoughts initially on this game?
Well, VCU is a better team than I think people expected, because they had a few big injuries in the preseason.
Yeah.
And really, they weren't supposed to be competitive at all. And it took them a little bit. They lost by double digits to Wagner, lost to Chattanooga, then, came here and beat Syracuse by double digits. So, this is a team that's gotten a lot better since the start of the year.
Mhm.
And you said it, I think, before we got going, like, this was the worst team UConn could play after 2 emotional days.
Yes.
With double overtime against Auburn and the Michigan State, a team that's going to press you and come at you for all 40 minutes. And that's what they got. And as a result, UConn was exposed in a lot of ways. And that's what these tournaments are for. That's what they're good for. And, if you're going to get exposed, you might as well win 2 out of 3 in the process and go home and, have a couple of bye games to work on things. So realistically, I think this was the best we could have really expected from this weekend. You got a real quality win over Auburn,
Yeah.
lost a close one to a really good Michigan State team, and then you got that third win against a VCU team that's probably going to win a lot of games. So
Yeah. No, I think as the year goes on, the win against VCU is going to look better and better as we go along there. But I think if you went into this tournament, I think everyone probably would have signed for 2 wins out of here, especially winning. I think winning the first game is always key in these types of tournaments. If you
yeah,
get that first big win and stay in that winner side of the bracket, you're usually in pretty good shape. So to get 2 wins, as you said, against some good teams there, and when you think about it, not only were they pressed all game today against VCU, they also had it for maybe about like 25 minutes or so against Auburn the other day.
yep.
So the legs have to be shot after this week, given all that they've been through. Just looking at this game today, your thoughts in general on some player performances. I mean, you got to start the performance from Isaiah Whaley today, coming off a day that he didn't play because he had fainted the day before, and he's coming out and he's hitting threes like anything.
Yeah, Whaley was phenomenal. I mean, in a game where there are so many negatives, and I'm sure we'll get into those, Whaley was
Yeah.
a humongous positive. He hit a couple of big threes, which I know is something that he has worked on in the offseason, become more of a perimeter threat. That was great to see. The energy that he provided down the stretch, maybe having yesterday off helped, because he
Yeah.
had legs when nobody else did. And just the energy that he provides. Did you see him banging his head against the stanchion
At the
after
end there, yeah.
after the layup? Or yeah,
Probably not the best to do after he passed out.
yeah, maybe not the best move, but you gotta like the energy.
Oh, I love it. I'll take it every day,
Yeah,
every day out there. What's kind of interesting to me is I think everyone's come into this year thinking about the depth of this UConn team, especially when you get guys like Polly and Whaley back for this fifth year. And without the two of them, you kind of wonder how this week goes because Polly saved them against Auburn. And you have Whaley today really kind of saving them down the stretch and in overtime here today. So the two super seniors, they're really coming up big time for them.
Yeah, I mean, Polly was atrocious today, but
Yeah.
they don't win the game against Auburn without him.
No, no.
So
I knew as soon as they were like, at one point they were like 10 of 14 from three, I think it was against Auburn. I'm like, they're going to be like 2 for 6 next 16.
Yep, that's how this team goes.
Yeah.
But you know what? They were able to scratch out a win regardless.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of surprising against a team like VCU because they're gonna defend you so hard that if you get an open look, you need to hit it. And the amount of open threes that this team missed,
Yeah.
I really thought it would come back to bite them. But yeah, anyway,
opportunities. Yeah.
To your point about the seniors, yeah. If Polly wasn't here, we would probably be seeing more of Hawkins, which I think a lot of people want to see. But you know, who knows if that's probably not enough against Auburn. Maybe
Right.
though, you know, we see more of Hawkins and they beat Michigan State. I don't know. As far as Whaley goes, they needed him today, and they probably needed him yesterday too.
Yeah. No, and the things Whaley's done on the defensive side too, especially against Auburn. I think he only had 2 points against Auburn, but what he was able to do from a defensive perspective, I think makes up for a lot of that. And when you have a guy like Sonogo down low who could provide the offensive power, from that position, I think having a guy like Whaley who can hit a few shots here and there and be able to play some clutch defense is big for this team. Another guy I want to bring up, and he really had a great game today and really was pretty much the whole offense for a lot of the game was RJ Cole, and what he was able to do today. I think you've seen him start to take over a little bit, and he's showing that he can be that scorer that you saw when he was back at Howard.
He could be that scorer, but he really made me concerned about him handling the ball in late game situations.
Yeah.
Because the amount of times he picked up his dribble and got trapped or turned the ball over or had to call a timeout, that's concerning. You don't want to see that from a senior.
No.
And the fact that he did it time and again was a problem. So it was a mixed bag for me with Cole today. I mean, the scoring was fantastic. He hit a couple of huge threes as well. And also, that 3-point play. So I don't want to take anything away from him there. When UConn needed a bucket, he got it. So, good for him. But it was this team was refusing to win the last 3 days. And they got lucky against Auburn. They were able to pull it out. They got lucky in some senses today. But this team closing a game late really, really worries me. And, early in the season, it's not something to lose sleep over because you're going to have opportunities to learn.
Right.
And of course, you're going to look at film. You're going to work on that. But really, you have to hope that that's something that the coaching staff can get turned around. And it does start with RJ Cole.
Yeah. And I think it's something where you look for the next close game that they're in down the stretch to see how they react. Because I know it's hard to implement some changes there, playing these games on 3 consecutive days. But they've got plenty of film to look at from this week of how not to close out a game and what they need to do there. And I agree to some extent on what what you were saying about RJ being able to handle the ball. And I think having another ball handler out there is going to be big for this team. But there were a couple times where he got trapped and no one was really trying to do much to help him out there, which I think was a little bit of a problem. And I think, again, as we were just saying, these are tournaments to figure out and games to figure out where you need to work on and how you can improve in it. And I think that's definitely probably the biggest area out there. Another guy I think is we could transition to now, who really probably was the player of the tournament for UConn, and that's Adama Sanogo. I know he didn't have the best game today, but he showed what he could do against Auburn, had a pretty good game against Michigan State too. Thoughts on him this week and what he was able to do?
When Sanogo catches the ball either in position to score or in position to make a move, he's one of the best big men in college basketball.
Definitely.
And he showed that. He even showed that a couple of times today, even though he didn't have his best scoring game. But especially against Auburn. He has to learn when to pass the ball. And I'll cut him a little bit of slack, particularly yesterday, because Tom Izzo, he even said it after the game. He said, Sanogo's going to get his. We wanted to take away all of the other options.
Yeah.
And in that regard, Sanogo didn't have a better option than to
Take it himself.
dribble and take
Yeah.
it himself when ideally he shouldn't have. Wasn't always the case today. He did, of course, at the end kick it out for that three. I think it was at the end of regulation.
Yeah, to Whaley, the three Whaley.
That was the Whaley three.
Yeah.
And that was beautiful. And if he can do that,
Yeah.
then all of a sudden we have an amazing player on our hands.
Yeah.
But you know what? He's a sophomore. He's 6 games into his sophomore season, or 7 games now. It'll come. I'm not worried about him at all. I think we're going to see a lot more great performances from him than subpar. Today was probably subpar. But again, you know what? Given everything that went against this team today, a lot of it self-inflicted. The fact that they still won is a very good sign.
Yeah, no, I think everything you're seeing from Sanogo, for the most part, has been pretty positive. I think the one thing for him to take his game to that next level is being able to kick it out, especially as the season goes on and there's more and more film on him. They're going to start to double and triple him a little bit more, and you're going to have to be able to make that pass and open guys out. So I think that's going to be big for this team, and I think that was the issue a little bit yesterday, where just scrolling through Twitter and everything, you could see a lot of the comments being that he was forcing it a little too much. So being able to have that ability to kick it out, and I think the biggest example, as we talked about, was that Whaley shot today when he was able to kick it out, led to a wide open 3, and it sunk it to tie the game there. So I think that's going to be big for this team going forward. And again, they're going to have to make those shots when he is able to kick it out to them too.
Yeah, and just one more point about Sanogo. In the first 3 games of the season, against Central, Coppin State, LIU, he was able to score through those double teams.
Yeah.
Because he's just bigger and stronger than everybody. And you saw him make some just beautiful basketball moves. He has to learn when those will and will not work.
Yeah.
And there are probably teams, even in the Big East, where he will be able to do that. Was not the case in this tournament. Right. And he just has to be smarter. And the other 4 guys on the court have to be better at getting open as well. That's also part of this.
Definitely. I know we mentioned Jordan Hawkins a little bit in just going through the week in the game. I know fans are really clamoring to see more of him. What are your thoughts on the minutes he's been getting? From my perspective, I like what I've seen. I like him coming off the bench. I know there are a lot of people saying that he should be starting right now. And I think it's always tough to start some of these freshmen here coming in, especially when he missed the first 3 games of the season with that ankle injury. I like being able to get him some minutes off the bench here and increasing those minutes from, here on out to the part where maybe come Big East play, he's in a spot where he could be on that, out there starting.
Yeah, I think there will be games that he does start. I think it's going to come down to the opponent, to be honest with you, because obviously you're not taking Cole or Martin out of the starting lineup. You would be considering putting Jackson on the bench. And there might be times when that's the better move. I don't think this was one of them, because I think they really needed Jackson's rebounding.
Yeah.
And he was awesome on the boards. I do want to see more from Hawkins overall. And I'm a little surprised that we didn't see it, because he was so good against Auburn. As a freshman doing that against a second weekend caliber team.
Right.
He's earned more minutes than he's gotten. I'm less hung up on him starting versus not starting than I am on the amount of minutes that Jalen Gaffney got instead of Hawkins the last 2 days, because Gaffney not only gave UConn nothing, but he was a liability a lot of ways.
I almost feel like, from a Hurley perspective, between Gaffney and Hawkins, in the scenarios they were debating using the 2 of them, it was kind of a pick your own poison to me. It felt like this week, both of them showed some big liabilities when it came to handling the press and not turning the ball over or doing something along the lines that, that would give the other team the possession there. I saw, we saw that one where Hawkins, just lost the ball. He lost another ball today. So it's some of those freshman moves, and you could almost see like the game's moving a little too fast for him at those times where he's trying to think 3 steps ahead of what he should be doing when he's getting the ball. And I mean, it's fair. He's a freshman. Those are things that, that he needs to get those minutes out there. And I think for him not being able to play those first 3 games where he could have gotten some more minutes, and I certainly think he would have gotten more minutes those first 3 games. It's hard. What did he play? A handful of minutes heading into this tournament against top tiered teams, right? I feel like you've got to ease him in a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point about Hawkins, about the pace of the game. I guess the one thing that did kind of disappoint me about his minutes is that he got into his own head after that turnover
He
at the end of
definitely,
the Auburn game. I mean,
yeah,
you're able to see it on the bench. And when he made that turnover today, again, another stupid turnover, but you take the good with the bad. He's a freshman. You kind of live with
absolutely,
it.
yeah. You live with it.
Maybe that was the case again. I mean, Hurley is on the sideline. We're watching at home. Maybe he saw exactly what you saw, that he's just not quite there yet to be playing important minutes in a game like this. And if that's the case, then you know what, let him go nuts in these next two games and see where we are,
Yeah.
against Bonaventure.
Yeah, that's exactly kind of the way I've been thinking about it, and get him comfortable out there. You've got some more games to do that before you throw him into the spotlight a little bit more. I know today there was a lot of conversation about some of the other freshmen not playing, and it mainly seems to revolve around Diggins, especially as dealing with the press. It looks like there's a need for another ball handler out there. You surprised you're not seeing more from him?
I am, and if only because of how much Dan Hurley talked up him and Johnson in the
Yeah,
preseason. I mean, there's a guy who said Samson Johnson is going to be a 2 or 3 year player and his front court book night,
yeah,
and he did not play at all in Atlantis. So I'm surprised from that perspective. It is possible that Hurley just thinks those two aren't ready yet, and maybe that's the case. But UConn desperately needed another ball handler out there.
yeah,
You said it, and if the guys in the game aren't going to get it done, maybe Diggins will.
yeah,
Uh, so I would have liked to see him, if even if it's just to give Cole a rest for a possession before a media timeout,
yeah,
like just something. I mean, yeah, I criticized RJ Cole a bit up top, and I think it was deserving, but he also must have been gassed
right, yeah.
mentally and physically. Like emotionally, I don't know if he could have handled another overtime after
Yeah.
this one. You know what I mean? So maybe it would have been better to see Diggins just for a couple of minutes to let those guys sit. I don't know.
The reason why I wasn't surprised about Diggins, and I know a lot of people seem to be surprised he didn't see him, and it's because he didn't really play against the low mid majors the past week or two. He was basically getting mop up minutes against Binghamton. In with Andrew Hurley and Matt Gary. So if he's not getting big minutes in those games leading up to it when they're up 30 or 40 points, I didn't expect to see him in these pressure
Right.
type games. And that's where I was a little bit concerned. Where hey, if they're not playing him in these earlier games, something's got to be up. Because don't expect to see him in these if he's not getting maybe 10 minutes against Binghamton.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you can't be that surprised given what you saw in the first few games. I just think, given what we heard about these guys coming in, and let's remember those are both Diggins and Johnson top 100 recruits.
Right.
Like, I know they weren't 5-star guys; they're not like one and done guys, but
Yeah.
you're supposed to be able to come in and play minutes.
Yeah.
So it is surprising, but you know what? We're not in practice every day.
Right.
Maybe Hurley knows better than we do there. It stinks because I thought this team maybe had a little bit more depth now than it turns out that it does. But also, we're still 7 games into this season.
Right.
Maybe that changes, and I hope it does.
And I think part of the depth part was going to be riding the hot hand when you get it. And I
Mhm.
think that's what you saw a little bit coming into this week, where Gaffney had been pretty hot coming into these games in Atlanta. So you try to ride the hot hand, and unfortunately, just wasn't working out this week for him. And I
Yeah,
think that's going to just kind of be this season. We're going to just kind of have to mix and match based on who's got the hot hand at the time.
yeah. Listen, Gaffney earned his chance to
Yeah.
get minutes in this tournament. He earned his chance to prove that he shouldn't get minutes, except he did that and he still got minutes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I don't want to pile on Gaffney, but the fact of the matter is he made some boneheaded plays, which again, sophomore, fine. He's a
Yeah.
sophomore, right?
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
just blend together. I don't know what day it is. Uh, it'll happen. But when you have other options, I'm surprised you didn't go to him. And I'm not even talking about Diggins here. I'm talking about Hawkins.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah.
seems like Hawkins right now is ahead of Gaffney, or should
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, no, I like what Gaffney brings to the game because when he's on, he just brings such a
Yeah.
steadying presence to this team and can do a lot. So I really just want to see him be able to turn into that player consistently, and I'd be thrilled. I think it'd be huge for this team. So maybe it's just a bad week, shake it off and see what comes the next few weeks
Yep.
here. And I know someone just put in the chat here a comment about Tyreese Martin. I've been all over Tyreese Martin since last year. He's been one of my favorite guys on the team. I just love what he brings to this team. And it's been something I feel like that UConn's needed for so long and that they haven't had. They haven't had that bruising guy. He's just going to do a little bit of everything for the team. And he just really impressed me this week.
Yeah, there were times today I think where he was trying to do a little too much.
Yeah.
But you know what? The enduring visual I'll have from him out of this tournament was him with blood all over his hand and all over his jersey. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that encapsulates the energy, the physicality, the effort that he brings. And so that's why I said a minute ago, if you're talking about changing up the starting lineup, you're not taking Martin out.
Right.
He is way too important to
He's a
this team.
stalwart there. Yeah.
Yeah, and he sometimes they need him to shoot, and he shoots. Sometimes they need him to get to the basket, and I think he's doing that better this year than he did last year. And
Yeah.
sometimes they just need him to rebound and be a physical presence, and him and Jackson both do that very well too.
I think he's picked it up to another step defensively as well, because you're seeing him lock guys down. They're not able to turn that corner on him.
Mhm.
And Sacred Grove here is reading my mind, because I was going to go with one other
Yeah.
guy that we haven't talked about who had impressed me leading into Atlantis again, and that was a Cook. And he really didn't do much at all this tournament. He didn't get a ton of minutes against Auburn. He looked pretty overmatched against some of these teams here.
Yeah, I
And again,
am
he's
surprised we
working
didn't
his
see a
way
little more
back.
of him.
So,
Yeah, but given how great he looked coming in, I thought we would see more of him.
mhm,
We saw him for a stretch early in this game, and he didn't look great.
right.
This was maybe not the best game for him, just considering who VCU is. VCU is not a very good team in the half court. I think Sonogo held it down fine defensively. Him and Whaley
Yeah.
and Martin. And as far as what a Cook brings offensively, I don't know how that really factors into this offense with what VCU does as far as pressing you full court and really getting all over you. Like he can't handle the ball. You can't play really with more with three real front court guys
Yeah.
like VCU provides. And when a Cook had a couple open looks from
He
three
missed.
and missed them, well, if he's not going to hit those, then what good does he do in this game?
Agreed. Yeah. No, I think it's going to be interesting, and hopefully he gets, again, some more games, just get some more reps under his belt and get more comfortable out there as he's working his way back. But you hope by Big East play, he plays a role where he can be a factor for this team, because they'd really benefit from him.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And there will be games when he does. Actually, St. Bonaventure maybe well, St. Bonaventure is going to be tough because they have a great backcourt, but they also have a great front court. They're a really
Yeah.
fucking good team. There might be stretches where someone like a Cook is needed against Osunei, if I said his name right.
Yeah.
Osunei.
I always would.
You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think the matchup with him and Sonogo is going to be fascinating, but maybe a Cook plays a role there. I don't know. He'll have his chances. He'll have his games.
Yeah.
But I don't think it'll be a consistent thing where we're seeing him 20 minutes every game.
If you had to say biggest takeaway from this week of games, what, both positive and something maybe even negative here, what are you taking away that you want to see this team, improve on or continue to build on heading down the stretch here?
Biggest positive takeaway is that I'm now confident that this team is for real.
Yeah.
That this team should be a ranked team, a team capable of making the second weekend. I feel like the last 5-6 years being a UConn fan, you kind of come into the season expecting to fail until proven otherwise. And again, even though obviously we all saw the potential in this team, you kind of felt that way again, just
Yeah.
because that's how you're conditioned. And
Oh,
even after those first 4 games,
I was still kind of jaded. I'm like,
Mhm.
they could beat Central by 50 10
Right.
times. It's not going to be till they go and play Auburn.
Exactly.
They're competitive. And then you get to that game too, and it's like 10 minutes in, and they're down 21-10. And
Yeah,
you're
like, fuck,
here we go again. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and on top of that, that when this team gets rattled, they can come back.
Definitely.
And they did that. I mean, really, they did that in all 3 games, but mostly in the first 2.
Yeah.
So that's another great positive. I think the negative is what pretty much everyone's going to take away. This team does not know how to close games,
Yeah.
and it is very easy to turn them over. And they play not to lose sometimes
Mhm.
down the stretch. And surprise, surprise, that causes losing a
Yeah.
lot. And it could have today. Thankfully, it didn't. The backcourt has a lot to work on as far as taking care of the ball goes. And also defensively, something that I think was exposed is the inability to stop the ball.
Yeah.
Um, which I never would have thought would be a problem, because if a guy gets beat, well, you have Sonogo and Whaley inside, but the other teams have done a good job of pulling them out onto the perimeter, which isn't necessarily a problem because Whaley is so good defending no matter where he is on the court.
Mhm.
But now if you do that and you beat one of the guards, they have a real problem recovering. So that's also something that needs to be addressed. Um, so have a couple of bye games coming up to work on it, and St. Bonaventure is really going to test them in that, because they have guards who can shoot and guards who are quick. So you can't lay
Yeah.
back on them expecting the drive, but also if you go up and contest, you have to be ready to stay in front of them.
Yeah. And I think, and I know you're jumping to St. Bonaventure, but this team's going to get another great test against the Press going to West Virginia, and
Oh,
that's going to be a chance where you've got 2 weeks now to work through some of those kinks that you had this week in Atlantis against a pressing team. So
yeah.
if you could work some kinks out and try to stabilize and get that second ball handler to help RJ or what, I think that's going to be a big thing that I'm looking for over these next couple weeks when you go to see that game at West Virginia. I know it's a road game and it's going to be tough anyways, but to see if they can at least perform at a bit of a better level than they did this week against the Press, I think is something that's going to be big for them.
Yeah, sorry. I thought the Bonaventure game came before, so that's why I was jumping to that one.
Oh,
But
no.
you're absolutely right about West Virginia. It's going to provide the same sort of opportunity. And West Virginia right now, they lead the country in turnover percentage defense.
Yeah.
So that is a big concern. Especially, I mean, they're 12th in the country. I'm looking at their Ken Pom page, obviously. They're 12th in the
Yeah.
country in steal percentage, second in non-steal turnover percentage. So even if you get the ball up the court,
Yeah. You're throwing.
you're still screwed.
Yeah.
So that's a game where Cole is going to have to be better. Gaffney is going to have to be better. Maybe a Diggins or a Hawkins, or even a point guard Andre Jackson is going to have to play a big role as well. And actually, that reminds me, I think as bad as this game was today for UConn, as poorly as they played, I thought the best they looked was at the beginning of the second half,
Yeah.
when Jackson would get a rebound defensively and the
And
team
they
would take
run.
off down the
Yeah.
court.
Yeah.
Because if one way to beat a team that presses you is to get out and run. And
Yeah.
when they were able to do that, they looked phenomenal. And that's what Jackson brings when he's not scoring, because he's the only one who can come down with those rebounds. He's super athletic and throw a bullet pass like he did down the court to a streaking Martin, Sonogo, Whaley, whoever.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think there's a lot to like about this team, though. So I know these games were stressful and there's some level of negativity out there still. But at the end of the day, I'm still pretty high on this team. Would you
Oh,
agree?
I am too. Oh yeah, I am too. Like I said before, you play these tournaments to get exposed and to hopefully win while you do it.
Yeah.
And UConn won 2 out of 3. When we talked at the beginning of the season, we were trying to like kind of figure out what should the target be heading into the Big East. And I said, try to take 2 out of 3 in
Yeah.
Atlantis and split the Bonaventure West Virginia games.
And they're
So
still on
part
track
one
for.
is done.
Yeah.
They're on track for that. And now I have a very good shot, at least at splitting those two. It's going to be tough though, because of what those two teams bring, and we talked about that.
Yeah.
But overall, yeah, I'm with you. This is a legitimately good team. Final Four good, not yet. I'm not ruling it out that they could get to that point.
I mean,
Not there right now.
everyone's new favorite announcer, Jimmy Dykes, is calling
Oh,
them
Jimmy
in the
Dykes loves it.
game, right?
Yeah,
Right? So
yeah. He thinks so. I do think they're a second weekend caliber team,
agreed.
which means 4, 5, 6 seed range. And if you could do that, then it's reasonable to pick them to go to the second weekend. I think that's where they are right now. They need to clean a lot up if they're going to get to a level beyond that. And I think they can, but it is going to take time.
Which day's officiating did you like more, yesterday or today?
Um, I, I'll I'll have a cop out answer. I like today's because they won the game, so it didn't cost them. The officiating was horrific this
Awful.
weekend.
Just awful.
Both ways, both ways.
Yeah,
It's I
yeah,
mean, it cost UConn the game yesterday, among other things.
right.
But it was horrible. And honestly, I think it was a few years ago, people started to say, there's going to be a reckoning with it, with how bad the officiating is in college basketball. Something's got to give. And then we realized actually the NCAA doesn't care.
Right. They just
People aren't going to turn off the TV because the officials are bad. And
people
so
just get mad online and that'll
they'll
be
get
it.
mad online and they'll still watch. And so nothing's going to change. The officiating is never going to get better because in order for that to happen, the NCAA would have to actually hire officials as employees, pay them reasonably,
Yeah.
and train them. And they don't do any of that.
No.
At least not, they don't do any of that effectively or as well as they could afford to. And because of that, what do you expect? Like, I had someone in my DMs yesterday who works for a mid-major conference saying, that I think it was an official who said to him, what can they expect when they pay us $65 a game? And
Yeah.
I can't dispute that.
I umpired youth little league games and I made like $20 a game. So there's what, a $40 difference to go ref
I mean, that may have been an exaggeration,
yeah.
but the
Yeah,
point
yeah.
stands. They don't get paid what they should be getting paid. They're contractors. The NCAA isn't investing in actually making them better at their job, and this is what you get for it.
Yeah. No, I mean,
The thing, and this has been said to death, and now I can say it because I have a microphone in front of me. The thing that really annoyed me the most yesterday wasn't even that the call was wrong. It was who made it and
who
from
made it?
where on the court.
Yeah, the guy all the way in the back.
Because you know what? If it had been the baseline official,
Yeah.
then it's a bad call still. We still
Yeah.
get mad at it. But that's at least a bad call that happens. The guy 30 feet trailing the play has no business blowing his whistle, especially given that he had no view of it at all, not even a bad view, because the Michigan State player's body was blocking him from seeing RJ Cole.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, the part that cracked me up today is when Jimmy Dykes is trying to explain to Jamie Lucky at the end of regulation, they're like, hey,
Give
like,
Jimmy
why is there
Dykes the whistle.
1.1? Like, it should be 1.4. He caught it out of bounds, so no time.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. And UConn should have been inbounding from in front of their bench, not from, just beyond midcourt.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, always something to complain about officiating, but I feel like this week was probably some of the worst I've seen in a while.
It was really, really, really bad. And, it's just getting you ready for Big East play because Big East officials are among the worst there are.
Oh, at least we'll all be together at Gamble this year in XL to heckle them as one.
And you know what? Maybe that has an effect.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You never know.
Like coaches work officials for a reason, and it's not to change the call that was just made because they know that's not going to happen. It's to get the next call.
Except if you go look
at that,
fans
can play a role.
I remember I read the article this week The Athletic put out. Did you see this one where they asked coaches about their favorite and least favorite refs?
No, I didn't see it.
So yeah, I tweeted out today because I remember reading the Jamie Lucky one, and the first comment from a coach is he's an absolute prick. Then you go like, then you go 2 comments down, and it's like the guy holds a grudge for a year. It's like you go off on him. So hopefully Dan was nice to him today in some regards.
Somehow I doubt that.
Yeah, no. Russ, we could end with this one. I know we've talked a lot about this week, the players and all. Who's your player of the tournament for UConn this week?
Oof. I'm giving it to Sonogo. I think that first game he had 30 points against Auburn. hit a couple of big shots in
Yeah,
Michigan State, and even in this game too.
yeah,
Finally hit a couple of free throws as well. I'll give it to him. I think you could have just as easily given it to Cole.
yeah.
Um, if Whaley had played yesterday, he
You
would
would
probably be the correct answer. But one of the things I like about this team is that I don't think there's an obvious right answer to that.
no,
Like
no.
last year, it would have been obviously James Booknight.
Book night, and book night. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. No, I'll go off the board a little bit too, just for some fun, and because I love Tyreese Martin. I mean,
Yeah.
every game he did something that had an impact on the game. I mean, we didn't talk about that shot yesterday where he blocked the shot, ran down the block, and dunked it. I mean,
Yep.
that's probably one of the best highlights you'll see all year this year. He just brings so much to this team. I feel like no matter what the situation is, I just picture him battling his ass off no matter what there.
I'm
And
with
not
you.
that the other guys don't, but no matter what, he's just dug in for those 40 minutes.
Yeah. He's another great option. Now, does that not count as the Wankies Yankee player of the tournament, or is that just player of the game?
That's just player of the game. So
Okay.
I guess we could do that. I mean, if you have someone for today, who you got?
I've got Isaiah Whaley today.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
two reasons. One, obviously the clutch shots, right?
yeah,
He hit the three. It's the reason it went to overtime. The 3-point play, obviously,
yeah.
like that's the obvious,
And
and
he hit,
also
and I don't know if he hit a three before today this year. I know he's taken a few. I'm not
he's
sure if he hit
taken.
it.
He might, yeah, I don't know. He might have hit one, but this was definitely the first time he hit multiple
Right? Yeah.
in a game, so that's great.
He's getting closer to Jimmy Dykes' magical 30 number that we need to
Yeah.
hit.
Well, that's also Whaley's number. He said that to me
Oh, did he
immediately.
say that? Okay.
Yeah. He said he wants to make 30 this year, so about one a game.
Okay.
Except the funny thing is he said he wants to make 30 of them, but then he also said later that Hurley says he should be shooting 2 a game. So if he's going to be a 50% 3-point shooter, maybe he should be taking more.
So I was right. First threes for Isaiah Whaley made this year tonight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 0 for
Yeah.
2. Didn't take one against Central, 0 for 2 against Coppin, and then 0 for 1 LIU and Binghamton. Didn't take any
Hey,
against Auburn.
if Whaley's starting to feel it now, maybe that gives us hope on the women's side for Dorka Juhas to start
Yeah.
making them.
Yes. They'll come. They'll come.
Yeah. So, and of course, the other reason, just the effort. I mean,
Yeah.
the guy literally collapsed on the sideline because of how hard he went against Auburn. Sat out yesterday, and I think even if it cost him the game, it was the right move. You don't
Yeah.
want to play
Oh,
around with that.
100%.
And to come back today and do what he did, like, how could you not love Isaiah Whaley?
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
he's not going to go down as one of the best players ever at UConn, obviously, but I think he should go down as one of the most liked.
and I think that's what you see from these guys these past couple of years. You look back at like Christian Vital, like these are guys that
Vital is
yeah,
one of them too.
it's just guys that you love the effort and what they bring out there.
Yep.
It just adds a whole nother dimension to it. So yeah, I'm giving it to Whaley too. I feel like if it was up to him yesterday, no matter what, he would have played. Like if they just
Oh yeah.
left it in his hands. I mean, I know they called Tyreese Martin questionable the past 2 days. Like there was never a doubt in my mind he wasn't going to play
Right.
either of those 2 games. So yeah, no, but Whaley all around hitting clutch shots today. The effort. I mean,
And sorry to interrupt you.
That's why you wanted him back.
Yeah, that's another great thing about Martin. I mean, you're talking about how much you love him. The
Yeah.
fact that he I think pretty clearly was not at 100%.
No.
Yes, yesterday or today. Like there were times when he would get hit and you could tell he was
You could
hurt.
see he was wincing. Yeah.
Yeah, and to still perform the way he did, I mean, that says so much about him
Yeah.
as a player and as a
I forget
competitor.
which wrist was the one that was taped, but at one point today he had from the blood. He had like
Yeah,
both hands taped
yeah,
up.
both
Like,
of them.
yeah.
He
But
should
no.
come out of the next game in oven mitts.
I remember it was the year it was Scott Luttress had like the club on his hand for football.
Yeah,
he broke
yeah.
something and he just had the like full on club cast.
Yeah.
So, but no, I love these guys. I'm excited for the rest of the season. This week lived up probably to the expectations that I was hoping for. Got the 2 out of 3, even if they were ugly at times, and gave me an extra gray hair or two.
Yeah.
We,
Yeah, and you know what? Probably keeps them in the AP poll next week.
yeah,
They'll
exactly.
get, yeah, you know,
Yeah, I would
Houston
hope
was
they
good.
wouldn't drop out after losing by 3 to Michigan State.
No, and if they didn't look so bad today, I would say they should move up.
Yeah,
If they stay right where they are, good with that.
I have no issue with it.
Yeah.
So, we will see. We've got Maryland Eastern Shore on Tuesday. Nice chance to bounce back and win one by 40 and see what we
God, I
do.
hope. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Russ, thanks for joining. Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the rest of
Happy
the
Thanksgiving.
holiday weekend, and we'll be back with you after we've got some other big games coming up. We
All right.
save these for the big ones during the
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
not getting on here after Eastern Shore. Unless they lose, then we will.
Yeah. Other than that. But Russ, thanks so much. Have a good rest of the weekend, and we'll talk to you guys all
All
later.
right. You
See ya.
too.